down Shaftesbury Avenue. There you would laugh and talk and enjoy the bridge and admire the beautiful.
She'll be there, like a willow, moan like a dove. You can't go to heaven unless you go by love.
She sounds just like my mammy was.
That's what I picked her for special. Weep like a willow, moan like a dove. You can't go to heaven unless you go by love. It's going to be a happy time for you, honey. This lovable Lucas is going to bring you to die. You're the one to blame.
Oh, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's book launch of our book, 100 Great Black Britons by Patrick Vernon and Angelina Osborne. We're going to, during tonight, we're going to meet the authors, we're going to meet the publishers, we're going to listen to some interviews of some of the people who've been, who are in the book, who've been nominated this year as one of the 100 Great Black Britons. There's also going to be an opportunity for the people listening, so for you in the audience, if you want to join in tonight's conversation, if you want to ask some questions, please stick them in the chat. We will be watching the chat, we will be watching for questions, and we'll try to get as many of your questions in as possible. But let's kick off tonight by bringing into the room Patrick Vernon and Angelina Osborne. Patrick, Angela, where are you? Hello, Patrick.
Hey, hi, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for your support and being online tonight.
And we're waiting for your co-author to join us. Well, let's start with you, Patrick. So,
okay, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my video.
Are you having trouble with your video? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying. There, I'm here. Here you go.
Here we are. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Welcome. The gremlins are in the room tonight.
Or something like that.
Or something like that. Well, let's start off, but let's just go straight into talking about this and how this came about and why this. I had a peep at the introduction. Thank you for giving me an advance copy, because I managed to read the introduction, and actually the story of the book and how the book came about is almost as important as the 100 great black people who are represented in the book. Tell us a little bit about the story of the book and how the book came about, Patrick.
Okay, so it's a campaign and a book, actually, in many ways. So the campaign started around about 2003, but before then, as you probably, the BBC had a major TV series and major advertising campaign called 100 Great Britons. They're trying to find the greatest Britain of all time. At the time, if you could cast your mind back to the year 2000, or Britain was going through identity crisis. Britain goes through identity crisis every 10, 15 years, even now. And, you know, obviously there was Scotland, there was a move for independence, similar debates in Wales. In the English regions, there was talk of more regional government, more powerful local power taken away from Whitehall. And the whole rhetoric around immigration, migration, as always happens, you know, no different from the time of Enoch Powell's speech, you know, about too many immigrants, you know, that kind of stuff. So the BBC thought they had this fantastic idea. If we delve into the annals of history, find the greatest Britain of all time, that will somehow bring the country together, basically. So that's what the BBC did. They had major advertising campaigns around the country. I can remember one weekend I was driving up to Wolverhampton to visit my parents. I saw this massive big poster saying, "Nominate now for your greatest Briton of all time." I didn't take much of it, to be quite honest. It's only when the BBC were doing the TV series, and they got, and I think Anne Robinson, because she was quite big in those days, wasn't she? She was comparing these documentaries about Great Britons, because at that time the BBC had an official 100 and went down to 10, and in the official 100 there was no black people at all. There was hardly any Asian people. That's not true. There was one Asian person there, Freddie Mercury, lead singer of the Queen, of Farsi parents, born in Zanzibar, East Africa. But if you looked at Freddie Mercury, you wouldn't think he was Asian anyway. But so essentially, visibly, there was nothing that identified with, definitely in my experiences, other people's experiences in the community. And at the time, everyone complained. The Irish complained, there weren't enough Irish people on the list. The Welsh complained, Scottish complained, feminists complained, black people and Asian people complained. And I remember I'm on a Bassa email group, the Black and Asian Society group, still going after 20, 30 years. And I remember putting a post in the chat saying, let's do a counter campaign, let's do something. And then no one replied. And one person did reply back to me saying, well, Patrick, good luck to you. So I thought, I'm going to do a counter campaign. And I kind of looked at my bank balance, said, can I afford this? And then I decided to try and pull together a team. And this is where Angelina came in, because Angela can tell her story, how we met each other. But I've got a team of black people, web designers, researchers, and we pulled it off. We launched the campaign in October 2003. We had support of Ken Livingstone, the Mayor of London, Lee Jasper at the time, who was Deputy Mayor for Policing, and he was Rose and Ramodi, they supported it. We had a launch event in the living room at City Hall, October the 1st, 2003, and it went ballistic. The website that we designed, there weren't that many black websites at the time in Britain. There were Black Britain Online, Blacknet, which is still going, Black Presence, Black Chronicles, I think. There were probably a handful of websites around aspects around Black identity, Black history as well. And who can remember the 2000s? There was no Facebook, no chat, no Instagram, no Twitter, no TikTok, none of these platforms that we take for granted for today. Just the web, and the web was very basic. And even doing emails. Who can remember waiting for half an hour for email to come through, or an attachment through dial-up? That was the technology then that we created on that platform, and so that led to the campaign. And the campaign, in many ways, was the first time. I mean, what we did was nothing new, nothing original. We just put together content on one website and celebrating Septimus Severus, Black Roman Emperor, to Miss Dynamite. In terms of 1800 years, 2000 years of Black history, basically.
Well, can I just bring Angelina in, because even without Facebook, even without Twitter, even without YouTube, even without an effective web service, you managed to meet with Patrick Vernon. How did that happen?
Good evening, everybody. I met Patrick at a media event. It was an event for Black researchers, Black media people, Black creatives. I met him at that event in late 2002. We introduced each other, and he said that he had an idea, and that if he could, because I had my name tag on and I'd written researcher underneath it. I'd just gotten my master's degree and I wanted to get into research. And so he said, if you're a researcher, I've got an idea, and I'm going to give you a call soon. And I said, okay, sure. A few months passed, and he did call me, and he said, I have this idea it's going to be called 100 Great Black Britons. And if you're not doing anything, I'd like you to do the research for the website. I've managed to amass 100 names. Would you mind being involved and researching the 100 people, doing biographies of them? And I said, sure, I'd love to. So that's how Patrick and I met, and how I got involved in the 100 Great Black Britons campaign.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about it when you come back to us later on. But Patrick tells me you've been doing the heavy lifting on this one. You've been doing the research and getting the stuff
Yes, that's right.
ready to be published.
That's correct. He's always Patrick has always acknowledged the work that I've done, and I'm very grateful for his acknowledgement. I'm grateful that he trusted me to do the research on this book, and that I would do a good job.
Can I just say for the record, everyone, that Angelina's a fantastic person, and I've known her for 17 years, and and it's about working with people that you trust, you have confidence in, and giving mutual support. She's supported me over the years, I've supported her, and it's just great that we work together on this project. It's honoured that we've worked together, it really is.
Agreed, absolutely agreed. Patrick's a great person to work for, and he trusts in your abilities, that you're going to do a good job. Doesn't micromanage, doesn't stand behind you. He just trusts that you're going to get on with the job.
Thanks very much. Listen, let's go to our first online poll tonight. We're going to be having 3 quizzes tonight. And the first of those quizzes is just about to hit our screen. If you're, oh, and there it is. And so if you're one of the audience, you should be able to choose make a choice of those 3 answers. So it's according to Billboard, how many #1 hits has Stormzy had? Is it 5, 3, or 2? I would have said I had no idea at all. I must admit, I had no idea at all. It says share results. So I'm going to press that button and see what happens. Okay, but most people, 56% of the people in the room got it right. Would you have got it right, Patrick?
I probably would do. I'd probably just say, looking at the number of people on his YouTube videos that he's done, you can work it out, actually.
You could work it out. Oh, okay. I'd have no idea. Well, thank you very, very much to the 2 of you for introducing yourselves, for introducing the book. We're now going to meet with Duncan, and Duncan is from the publishing house that published the book. Are you with us, Duncan? No, I'm sure he is, but the gremlins are playing again.
There he is.
Oh, here you are. Hello, Duncan. How are you?
Sorry, I have a quiz in the way. I'm going to have to close it. Hello, everyone. I am Duncan Proudfoot. I'm the publishing director of Robinson, which is an imprint of the Little Brown Book Group, part of Hachette UK. We're very grateful to the Ubela Initiative for organising this evening. We're very grateful to all of you for being here, if only virtually. I've been asked to say a few words as the publisher of the book, and I gathered today that I should be trying to address a question, which is, why did we publish the book? So let me try to focus on that. I should emphasize at the outset that I'm one of the publishers of 100 Great Black Britons. Right from the start, this has been very much a joint project with my colleague, Rebecca Shepherd, who suggested initially that Patrick was the person to speak to about a particular project that I had in mind, which was actually a different one, in fact. And it's also Rebecca who's done all the hard hands-on work of actually editing the book. My feeling is that I should be trying to say as few words as possible, that the focus for this evening should be very much on celebrating the lives and achievements of the Black Britons, not only those described so brilliantly in the book by Dr. Angelina Osborne, but also the thousands more besides who may not be in the book, or at least not in this edition of the book, but who very much deserve to be. I'd also like to pay a particular tribute to Angie and Patrick's remarkable achievements in the face of the first lockdown as a result of the pandemic, and in spite of many other demands on their time, in delivering such a well-researched, vivid, and readable manuscript, not only in great shape, but also in time for us to publish ahead of this year's Black History Month, which I think is tremendously significant. This is a book, of course, that really should have been published 17 years ago in 2003, when Patrick initiated his campaign in response to the BBC's Greatest Britain Ever poll. As you've already heard, and popular series of programs, as you've already heard from Patrick, there was one person of African and Asian descent in that poll out of the 100 Britons that British people regarded at the time as truly great, Freddie Mercury. I remember then, or it may have been a year or so later, when I'd made a belated start in publishing, proposing a book on African history to the independent publisher I was working for here in London. But it was dismissed, to be fair, along with some other ideas, as being insufficiently commercial. One of the things that I find so exciting about Patrick and Angie's book, and so many others recently published, is that they're really turning that view on its head. Thanks to the tireless efforts of Charmaine Lovegrove and others within Hachette, and growing numbers elsewhere, things have begun to change for the better in publishing, but we still have a very long way to go. In the world as a whole, too, a great deal has been changing, or rather it feels as if the struggle has been hotting up again. It does feel as if we're approaching a tipping point, something of a tipping point, but things have felt that way before. Each generation, it seems, the fight has to begin again. I would say that a year ago, or even only a few months back, 100 Great Black Britons would not have had quite the reception that it has had. Last year, I published James Wolven's Freedom, which was the first book to look at the whole Atlantic world and to focus on the enslaved themselves as a factor in the complexity of forces that brought about the end of African slavery. It received a fairly muted reception, I felt. The mainstream focus seemingly still very much on abolitionism and other topics. It's coming out soon in paperback, less ambiguously titled as Resistance, Rebellion, and Revolt. And I anticipate it'll find a much expanded audience. Similarly, Slave Empire, How Slavery Built Modern Britain by Patrick Scanlon, which is out next month, is timely in a way that even a short time ago, I think it wouldn't have been. Ongoing support from Waterstones, among others, for Patrick and Angie's book, and also from Patrick's own extensive network, has been key in getting the book out there. I'm very proud to have published 100 Great Black Britons. Historically, Robinson has been a very commercial list, but it's good to see us able to publish books of social and cultural significance too. I'm grateful to all my colleagues in production and design, also in marketing and publicity, that we've managed to produce such a handsome book, I feel, because that is what the subject deserves. But our work in publishing the book, it rests very much on the 100 Great Black Britons campaign. So it rests entirely on Patrick and Angie's years of dogged effort since the first campaign in 2003. One day, hopefully, there may be no need for such a book. It'll be possible to celebrate a single shared national history, but I fear that promised land is still some way off. This book was needed 17 years ago, and sadly, it feels even more necessary right now. I think it's important that there should be a book to go alongside Patrick's ongoing, much needed campaign. As David Olusoga points out in his introduction to the book, and we're very grateful to David for all his support, we may share a national fascination with our colorful past, but one color has been largely missing: Black. The history of Black people is unique in how comprehensively and consistently it has been not just overlooked, but denied. Patrick and Angie's book offers a tangible, readily accessible record of some of that history in the form of a wide variety of significant lives, which are always a good way in to trying to understand the past, even if biography, as history at least, does have some limitations. Hopefully Patrick and Angie's book will find its way into many, many homes and schools up and down the country, not only to inspire future generations of Great Black Britons, and I think this is an important point, but also to show others what Britain's shared national history really looks like. As on the recently minted coin, diversity built Britain, and it continues to build Britain. And I think that's something to celebrate tonight.
Thanks thank you very much, Duncan. And thanks for that kind of journey through a kind of publisher's view of the book. I wonder, Duncan, before we let you go, could you share with us perhaps your greatest ambition for the book? What would be your greatest ambition?
Patrick has shared with me often enough his greatest ambition for the book, which is to see it in the bestseller charts. And as any publisher, that's what one wants. But I think this is a book where we want to see it out there. We want to see it in people's hands. And excitingly, on Twitter, that's already been the case, that there are people posing with copies of the book that they've got. They're delighted to be in it. They're delighted to support it. But I think we want to reach that much broader community of readers as well, because I think if we're to succeed in showing the whole country what Britain's history really looks like, we need a lot of people to get a copy of the book and to see it. And I think Yvonne's campaign to see a copy of the book in every school is tremendously significant in this regard.
Yeah, we are going to be talking to Yvonne later on, and so we'll be kind of hearing a little more about that campaign. But for now, thanks very, very much, Duncan. Thanks for being the publisher. Thanks for sitting with Patrick. Thanks for being part of what has made it happen. And I think I'll go with Patrick's best hopes. I'd like to see it in the bestsellers list too. So thank you very, very much, Duncan. Over to you, Michael.
100 Great Black Britons. This book is something important to all of us. I love the fact that it incorporates Black people from all over the world.
It really shows the history and the legacy of Black British people here in the UK.
I think you can see there that we're having some technical problems getting our clips out. But one of the things that we did do in preparation for tonight was kind of show the book to a whole range of people who all got really, really excited once they'd kind of gotten hold of it and started flicking through it and started seeing who was in it and seeing if the person they most want to be in it is in it. But so thank you very, very much for doing that, Duncan. Thanks very much for your involvement. Patrick, who I think we're going to have back. Are we going to have Patrick back now? Or no, we're not. I think we're going to the second 15-second quiz. So the second quiz is about to come up. And what is the question? Let's see what the question is. I won't know until it comes up. I never know these quiz questions until they come up. Oh no, this was the last one that we had. Oh, here we are. In what year did Diane Abbott become an MP? Was it 1984? I think I do know the answer to this one. Oh goodness, a little battle going on between 1987 and 1984. And I think 1984 came out the winner in our poll. But it just shows you the winner isn't always right, because the actual correct answer was 1987. So Diane Abbott, I think it was Diane Abbott, Paul Boateng, Paul Vaz, and Bernie Grant were all became MPs in 1987. Hello, Patrick.
Hi there.
How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I can remember 1987. That was quite an historic year in Black British politics and history as well. Just amazing.
Do you remember the moment that it happened?
Absolutely.
I don't remember. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
I do, because it was also the year I was involved in a campaign in Wolverhampton where a guy called Clinton McKerban died in the next clothes shop. So, and Paul Boateng was actually the family solicitors. So he used to go backwards and forwards to Wolverhampton, and then he became MP in the summer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I remember that clearly.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have a recollection of the night that it happened, but the thing I actually remember when Bernie Grant did his maiden speech, dressed in African clothes and just the kind of amazing moment that was then. I remember that.
Can you remember,
Yes.
can you remember what Paul Botang said? He said, "Today Brent, tomorrow Soweto."
That's right. That's right. He was very forthright at the time, Paul Boateng, wasn't he?
Yeah.
We don't hear a lot from him anymore. We should hear more from Paul Boateng.
Yeah.
If you're out there, Paul Boateng, get back over here, get back in. Let's hear a bit more from you. But right now we're going to bring on with you Yvonne Davis, and Yvonne's been kind of involved in a campaign to get this book out into every single secondary school in the country, is it?
Yes, that's the campaign. But also, Von's was a judge as well.
Oh, right. Okay. So, Yvonne, you were one of the judges.
Yes, I was. What an experience. It was really good. We had a very strong panel of historians, equality officers who were there, and a lot of questioning because there was over 1,000 nominations. We didn't go through all of them at the time. But a lot of cross-questioning whether they actually met the criteria, and that was the most important thing. These were nominated from the public.
What was the criteria? Are you allowed to share it with us?
Well, it was whether they're the first in their profession, but whether they've used their privilege and background as a platform to advance Blacks. That was a very key part of it. And yes, it was very interesting, and we got down to 100. That was finished off, so that was a good process. I just want to say, actually, thank you to all those who donated to the GoFund page, because we've moved on to that, and all the kind messages of support, which had been really quite good, and seeing the book as it should be in every family home as well as in schools. So whilst I've put the GoFund page for secondary schools to have a copy of the book and a copy of the poster, it would be really good. And I think some of the emails I had with kind messages and supporting the campaign and saying, I've bought the book, I've got it for my family, I'm going to be reading it to my child, has been really very, very, very positive, I have to say.
It seems like a really obvious question, but I think it's one that should be asked to both of you, in fact. Why is it important to have a book like this?
It's important, well, to me, it certainly inspired me and motivated me. And I've thought about the children who are in school. It's motivated in the sense that it is it's the first book I've come across with Black Britons in. Usually we talk about the outstanding achievements or contributions of Black Americans within schools. So we know about Martin Luther King and so on. But these are Black Britons who have used their platform to shape society, to advance the Black community, have gone through racism and prejudice and making a difference. I like the balance between the historical figures, our forefathers, and our present younger contributions of today. And as we speak, there'll still be others who are making that advancement for a better society. And I think now is a good time when actually young people are asking those questions. They want to see their history. It has been airbrushed for so long, and it is part of those other historical books which will give them an understanding of the journey, some of the journey that Blacks have gone through. But also, and as part of that, it creates cultural esteem. You know, to sit in a classroom and get to know more and feel proud of your background gives you that sense of belonging. And a sense of belonging is also about achieving outcomes. You know, if you're feeling good, you can share, it's put across properly. That gives you a good sense of identity. And with everybody being involved in that, it's opened up a conversation. You can have a conversation with your peers and with the teachers who are in the class, and keep on celebrating So
tell me about the campaign to get a book into every primary school, every secondary school.
Well, it's every secondary school at the moment, and I must say I have had emails whether it could go into primary school, and yes, it can go into primary school, and teachers can use that as a reference. They can actually make cards and use it. Teachers are pretty creative, so hopefully it will go into as many primary schools, secondary schools as possible. The campaign is good. You know, we're getting a lot of support financially, and in the next couple of weeks, I think we'll be sending out some of the books into schools. And it's not just in one part of the country, it's going across the country, across the UK, and the response on the GoFund page is across the UK of those who have funding there. So at the moment, there's individuals, there's companies, and hopefully we'll hear from more who will add to the funding.
Can I add something on a separate note? Angelina and myself were at Lambeth Council, Brixton Town Hall today. Lambeth Council have bought copies of the book for every single secondary school and primary school in the borough of Lambeth, as well as all the libraries. So not only is Yvonne got the campaign that we're raising money for, but if other local authorities can follow the lead of Lambeth Council and buy books in their schools, that's fantastic as well. And also to add, we're running a schools competition, as we did 17 years ago, to encourage schools, young people to enter from preschool to teenagers. And Racing Green, who's making a major movie on the life of Mary Seacole, going to come out next year. So kind of Hollywood type movie. And they're going to, one of the prizes they're going to sponsor is for young people to meet, well, subject to COVID and that kind of stuff, next year to go onto the film set, meet the actors and actresses, and have the experience of editing, post-editing as well. Black Editions magazine, I've sponsored Key Stage 4. You better sponsor as well. And we're looking for more sponsors out there for the prizes. And so far, and also have to acknowledge Focus Games. They've designed my website, the new website. Still got the old website, the archive, the old original website's still there, but brand new website. And I want to Focus Games doing the book distribution. And I want to thank particularly the guys there, Andy and Melvin and the team. They're all based in Glasgow, and I'll thank them for their support.
So there's about, what, 4,000 secondary schools across the UK? How many do you think we've done? How far have we got? How much work have we got to do?
8,000.
It's 8,000, yeah. There's still a lot of work to do. So trying to contact businesses, phoning the local authorities, making the contacts, my own contacts in education, or then making contacts with others as well on social media and the newspapers, not only in the south, but further up north. So I'm hoping it's going to start moving even quicker than it is.
Should we be asking the attendees tonight, all of the people who are putting stuff in chat, that they should be writing to their mayors, they should be writing to the leaders of their local authorities?
That would be really good. If they particularly local authorities, trying to get them engaged. As Patrick said, Lambeth, if they've bought 100 or 150, that is just really great news. I'm still waiting to hear from a few local authorities. I've phoned myself, but the more everyone can reach out, is the better.
Yeah, I live in Lewisham, so I'll be sending my emails to Lewisham as soon as we finish. But I think something that we could be doing, and I can see that somebody in Bromley is going to be doing it as well. So look, neighbouring boroughs, Lewisham and Bromley.
Great, thank you to everyone trying.
That'll be grand. So you've got a GoFundMe page. There are lots of people in the chat saying, can you put details of the GoFundMe in the chat so that people can donate to the GoFundMe page. Also, we're suggesting that people contact their local authorities Don't leave it till tomorrow, because if you leave it till tomorrow, you're going to forget, and then everything else is going to kind of become more important. Do it tonight. As soon as we finish tonight, send an email to your local mayor, to the leader of your local authority, to your local councillor, to somebody, to say that you want your borough to be buying copies of this book.
Another thing, Michael, I think that we've got a competition. You can win some books tonight.
Oh, right. We've got a competition tonight, haven't we? So tell me about that, Patrick. I didn't know.
You didn't know? Okay.
Oh,
so courtesy of Robinson, we've got about up to 5 copies that we're going to give out tonight. In terms of, not quite sure what questions we're going to ask, but I'm sure we can think of something.
Okay, so I think we're going to go to a clip now. Perhaps while the clip is playing, we can think of a question. Is that right, Tracy? She's in the background there somewhere doing kind of magic, and here's the clip.
Why do you think a book like this is important?
This is very, very important, not only for the younger generation. I was delighted. I think you've got sponsorship that there will be a copy of this in every school, which is wonderful. But it's actually also extremely important for those who've left school, who are older, who are retired. And it's important for all ethnic groups in this country, because there's a lot of ignorance about the achievements within our community, and other communities need to know about them. Every teacher in every school, I'm a retired nurse. This would be so important for managers in the National Health Service, not just of nurses, because there's significant, I think we have one of the largest employees from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds that are employed in the National Health Service. So closer to home, this book really needs to be disseminated within the National Health Service.
So we need to find a way to establish a relationship with Britain, which is one of equality and not impose racial injustice, which has been a deep and troubling and painful aspect of our life with Britain.
It's not that we need it, it is that we must have books like this. We must have remembrance, because the speed of life is so fast, even amid lockdown, that things get forgotten, things get pushed to the side. And when you push aside a generation or generations of achievers or people who have contributed, it means that the next generation do not know the shoulders that they stand upon. And they spend a lot of time having to reinvent the wheel. Books like this say, you have been here, you have done, you have achieved, and therefore so can you. In a world that wishes to negate us often, those of us who are of African heritage, to be able to look at those specifically from your land that has negotiated the travails of living in, as the old people like me used to say, living in Babylon. It's most needed.
Why do you think a book like this is important?
Because it's important to be seen. I like reading about the habits of writers, the habits of successful people, the habits of famous Black people. I read those things because they're inspiring to me. So if there's anything you can learn from reading about how people struggled to get where they got to today and what they had to do to get where they are today, you can learn something. And to me, books are the ultimate. If you can read a book, that's time well spent. To me, reading about how somebody did what they did is really important. So that's why this book is important, to be seen and to learn something.
A book like this is important because I want the 2020s to be the age of enlightenment, for the wrongs to be righted, for history books to be rewritten, and for Black people's contribution to British history to be recognised. And this book does it beautifully for future reference. I say today's news is tomorrow's history. So a book like this is vitally important.
To pass it on to our next generation. In fact, a teacher friend that I know contacted me yesterday, and they were doing Black History Month in her school, and they were looking at this book, and some of them actually knew about me. 10 to 11-year-olds, and I think so, and they were really engaged and really interested.
Our ability to engage with ourselves as Black British folk is often so much about mirroring what's happening in terms of the African American experience. So there's also something around resisting the erasure of Black British journey, of Black British voice, of Black British joy, of all that we are and all that we have been on these islands. For me, this is part of a bigger piece of work that needs to be done. I heard John Acomfort, and it's great that he's in the book, I heard him once say that we don't have monuments on these islands here, and the archive has to become a monument. And I really see this as part of creating archive for us as Black British folk. It's like teaching people that we're here, you know, it's like showing up, it's all of it. It's just beautiful, like we're here. So yeah, it's important in so many different ways.
It is important because it is highlighting. It is highlighting the presence of a certain group of people and the contributions that they are making, have made to this society. Hopefully this is something that can be shared with the next generation, because it is important for the next generation, my children, and well, maybe even my grandchildren's generation, to begin to see images of themselves in all walks of life, where people are excelling at what they do, where people are living generously in terms of how they share their gifts, their skills, their abilities with the wider community of which they are a part of. So it's important.
It is the community recognizing that I've done something, and that's why I'm in there. And every Black person in there must have done something. You don't need a long lecture on therefore what I've done. You just know that your name is in the book. And people then assume you've done something, and then they can go and look. It provides an immediate statement on who the book believes have made some contribution. Then people are then free to go away and check these individuals. So for those reasons, it's almost like, I don't know if it's ever been put this way, it's like a Black people's honours list.
It's a real pity that we're not together, because I do want to stand with everybody and applaud right now, and I kind of feel a bit silly doing it on my own, but wow. I've got a question for the two of you. You're having a dinner party, and you can choose 5 people from the book.
I think you need to bring Angie into this. She's got to answer 2.
To have at this dinner party. I think we're going to bring Angie in, but she's having some problems with her camera.
Oh, I don't have problems with my camera. It's the host has locked me off, so I can't turn it on. She has to turn it back on for me.
Oh, right. Can the host do something to bring Angie in? Because we want to know about her dinner party guests. And while she's coming in, the two of you...
yeah, I can't come in. She stopped it.
Have a chance to think about who you would have as your guests. I think, oh, there we are. You're here now, Angie. Oh, grand. Okay, so Angie, you're having a dinner party, and we have to assume you're having separate dinner parties, otherwise we're going to break COVID regulations. And you're allowed 5 people at your dinner party from the book. Who would you have at yours, Angie?
Oh my, I would have Bernardine Evaristo. I followed her work since the early 2000s, and I read The Emperor's Babe, and I've read a couple of other books, and I just think she'd be a terrific dinner guest. I think she'd be great company. That's number 1. The second person I would invite, well, the second and third person I would invite would be Claudia Jones and Olive Morris. I think that they would be, because of their sort of political background, I think we would learn so much from them. And I also, when I was researching them, I learned that they both really enjoyed having a good time. They enjoyed dancing and enjoyed company. So I think, as well as having the being the serious, having great deal of seriousness, they had a great amount of levity within them both. I would invite, I think, Lloyd Coxon, because, you know, the music, right? The music of pretty much my childhood and teenage years. So that's how many? That's 4, right? Is that 4?
4, so we can have one more.
And I think the fifth person would have to be Lenny Henry, you know, Lenny Henry, because you know, he's again part of my childhood growing up as a person on TV, a comedian and actor on television that I remember growing up. And every time that I see him on TV, I start laughing because he had this character called Deacus, I think, this character, this old Jamaican man called Deacus. And he had this line where he said he was in this dark room where he said, "It was so damn dark that if you did close your eyes, you would see better." So we did. Like this, so that those silly little things that he used to do. So, and also his character Delbert Wilkins. I just, you know, we love Delbert in our house. So yeah, those would be the people in my dinner party.
So your party's gonna be full of dancing and laughter and good music from Sir Coxon with Nadine Everest. What's she going to be? You're going to get her dancing, perhaps?
Oh no, she would just be, you know, she'd be reading from her book. She'd be talking to us about literature, talking to us about what she likes, talking about her work, you know, because I love literature. So she would be, and I think she'd be a good laugh. She looks like somebody who would have a good laugh. So I think there'd be a lot of laughing, a lot of great discussions, a lot of great laughter.
Okay, Patrick,
it's a hard one because I know quite a few people in the book already, so they might feel away if they're not invited. So I might have to have multiple parties or multiple social distancing type stuff. Okay, so I'll probably choose Bernie Grant as my first one. I knew Bernie, and I'm an activist, and he's like the role model for activists and campaigners. You know, people working in the trade union movement. So definitely, I'm lucky. I'm vice chair of the Bernie Grant Trust. We actually look after the Bernie Grant's archives, the Bishopsgate Institute, and the archives are so extensive. He documented everything he was involved in as a leader of Harringay Council, as an MP, his work around the reparations movement, his work in terms of in Europe, his work going to Africa, you know, stuff around business. And just you know, his archive is really, really extensive. So definitely Bernie Grant. I'll probably choose someone like Olodo Equiano. I see him as the great grandfather of civil rights movement in Britain. Just imagine over 250 years ago, you know, paying for your freedom, using your privilege to campaign for the rest of your life for the emancipation of Africans. You know, that's so powerful, you know, so definitely. I'll probably invite Diane Abbott. She's my local MP, and I do meet up with Diane now and again for dinner anyway, so I'll probably have to invite her and have a catch up with her. That leaves me with 2 more. I do love music, and Jazzy B was not in the book. He was on he's still a Great Black Briton. He was in the original campaign, and I've met him a couple of times. It's a good laugh. You know, play some music and just, you know, strut our stuff. But he's not in the book. But you know, and I think and there's loads of writers in the book. One of them, which I know personally well, and she's a good friend, definitely Margaret Busby. She's local. She's Hackney. I'm very Hackney biased, aren't I? Margaret Busby, she has not only she's been successful in her own writing career, she has inspired, if not hundreds, thousands or even tens of thousands of Black writers and Asian writers, and she's a stalwart. And you know, and she still has, and she makes time for you. So I've not seen them recently. Hopefully, we can catch up soon. I think that's mine.
That's your 5. Yvonne, your 5.
Okay. I would invite Dame Elizabeth and Ian. Certainly with the research in sickle cell, I'm really interested in learning more about her path. Dr. Elaine Arnold, the social worker. These are sort of associations in terms of the work that I do as well as in teaching. Really interested in foundation, separation and reunion. Having listened to some of the lectures of Akela, I'd love to meet him. Very interesting person to come to dinner. William Cuffy, being able to really fight for the working class, and Stormzy would be at my dinner table. Is that 5?
That's 5. That's 5.
Yeah.
Wow. I suppose my next question is a little bit of a cheeky question, but how long do you think it's going to be before the 3 of you are in the book?
No.
Because, you know, honestly, if anybody else was doing this book, Patrick, you would certainly be in it, would you not?
I'm one of the 1,000 nominees. So I'm at the back of the book.
Oh, you're at the back of the book as one of the nominees. Do you have ambitions to get into the main book, Patrick?
No. My ambition is to use the book to, as I think Yvonne eloquently articulated that. I work in the area. My background's I've passed my history and heritage, but I've worked in the field of mental health and healthcare for many decades. And one of the key issues, particularly around people of African descent in Britain, is our issues around self-esteem and confidence and belief systems. And if we are told subconsciously every single day that we're not worthy, that we experience microaggressions every single day, and it's only because of Black Lives Matter now that white people now start to believe that we don't imagine. Let's talk about structural racism. They actually believe, they actually don't understand that Black history, Black identity is really part of our recovery mechanism, and there's not enough of that stuff that happens. So to me, it's how can that be book? It's not simply a history book. It's using the men and women that we've featured, and also we've got a high proportion of people from the LGBT and trans community featured in the book, because I think that's quite important around intersectionality. That it's about that we are human, we should be respected, and in terms of our historical and contemporary lived experiences, it can help us to deal with all the microaggressions that we can deal with. That helps me. I immerse myself in history to deal with all the crap and all the immersion, all the kind of negativity that we experience consciously every single day, basically. It's no coincidence, like here in America and in Brazil, there's overrepresentation of Black people in the psychiatric system. And there's a whole range of factors to explain that, but one of the factors I believe is that we've been dehumanized, and this is about reclaiming back our humanity. And if the book can contribute towards that, and along with other books, other things that other people are doing, that'd be great.
Thank you. Angelina, if you could put this book into the hands of one person, what would person be?
It's funny you should say that, because somebody asked me that in an interview not so long ago, and I did say that it should go in the hands of James Cleverly. I think it should go in the hands of James Cleverly, who is or was the chairman, Tory party chairman. No, but I think this book should be just in the hands of anybody who, because, you know, as far as people who are white supremacists, racists, you know, I'm not looking, those individuals, not looking, trying to convince them otherwise. They've got their mindset, they're invested in that mindset for whatever reasons. But just to put it in the hands of a child. I was reading today about the history of Black History Month. and how Akiaba Adesibo was inspired to start Black History Month because a work colleague came in, a Black woman, her son, little 6-year-old boy, said to his mum, "Why can't I be white, mum?" And because he's asking that question, because he could see all around him, all the advantages and all the privileges that would be given to white people, and that he was not receiving those privileges and he wasn't being respected as a human being and as a child and as an African child. So I would want to put it in the hand of any child who thinks that they are not worthy, that they don't have that they believe that they don't have a history, that believe that they don't count because nobody's talking to them about this history. So anybody like that, that's who I would put whose hands I'd like to put it into.
Sometimes we kind of think about books, and when we started, certainly when I started tonight, I thought that this was the launch of a book, but it is a lot more than that, isn't it, Yvonne? It is much more about kind of, it is a movement, it is a deliberate act to disrupt what's going on and to create a new space, and to create a new space in which Black people are able to feel something different about ourselves. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's there to create a conversation about how Black people feel, and particularly from the point of view of the young ones. It's, will you listen to me, and can I find myself within that book and what our forefathers has done, and also what can I do so they become policymakers themselves. It's so important that they their well-being is good to achieve, and their history and the life stories that we have in here, and they are Black British life stories, which give you the context of what it was like at that time, whether it's historical in the past and what it is now, and how to overcome some of those challenges. That whilst we've got this change, this movement of thinking, movement of wanting change globally, they still can have that impetus from this book to ask those questions, to analyse within the class, for everybody, not just Blacks, otherwise everyone, to start having those conversations, but also to have that sense of well-being and that participant place in education. It also gives, if they unpick the life stories, it shows the resilience of the individuals and the determination. And we always talk about growth set in education, and we always talk about those kind of values about perseverance and resilience and determination. There are actually examples in there to help them, to encourage them, to empower them, and for everyone to start thinking about how inclusive we are as a society, how inclusive in education. And when we talk about education, we talk about access as one of those things. So you access a physical building, but how do you access your learning? And you've got to be in a good space for learning. And just recently, I have actually just got another book to take to my year 7 child who's finding that space difficult. And I know because of some of the surroundings about his identity is certainly one of those issues. You know, we need to think about the children who may misbehave, but what's that related to? How welcome do they feel within that space, that physical space? And maybe everybody will have respect each other a little bit more, and not kind of the negativism that they see then becomes, they then become that self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of, if it's all negative, I'm not learning, where am I, what's my history, then I'm not going to push myself. So the values can come ahead. It will help with that value as well that we try to put in education. I think it's a fantastic book for inspiration and motivation for the children. I really do. And it's so readable. And I think that's the essence of it as well. You've got a lovely balance, and most children can access that. Most teachers can actually access it and try and work on it within the curriculum, because at the moment it's not mandatory. So it's more accessible than quite a few books I've seen in the past. And for me, it's a special pleasure being on the panel, but also doing this campaign. I'm from the 60s. When I went into education in the 70s, I never had anything like this to look at. I had to try and find myself. And it wasn't through only till Saturday schools, which I used to teach in. And even though I studied history, I said nothing about myself.
Okay, should we just have should we have the first of our competitions to give away one of the books? And what we'll do is that we will give a book to the first person that puts in the chat Diane Abbott's middle name. Without Googling it, no, not lady. Philip suggested lady. We've had Louise. Tracy's suggesting it's ha 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 ha. And I think that we've got our first right answer. Look, everybody's had time to Google it now, but the very first person to get it in was somebody called Lade, L-A-D-E. And Lade, what we will do is, can you find Tracy in the chat and say, hello, Tracy, from Lade, I'm the winner. That's L-A-D-E, and then she'll be able to collect your details to get the book to you.
Okay, so I know Lade. So Lade is one of the very few senior Black women working in mental health around psychiatry. She works at the Maudsley, and she's linked to Royal College of Psychiatrists. I think she chairs the Diversity Forum. And she put in the chat, by the way, that she wants to get the book in the Royal College of Psychiatrists library as well. I think Agri Burke is also online. I wouldn't acknowledge Agri Burke is featured in the book. Me and Agri speak later. I would have probably invited him to the dinner party too, but we talk anyway. Sometimes it rings me at 10:30 at night and we talk about stuff. And I think Baroness Benjamin was online recently as well, and she's going to put a debate in the House of Lords tomorrow that the book should be in the national curriculum. So it's really fantastic. We've got some of the people featured in the book online. I think I don't know if Marcia Riggs online as well, but we've got quite a few people.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we leave the getting of the book to Lade in your hands, Patrick?
Well, the book's going to come to you anyway, so...
Lade. Yeah, assuming it's the same Lade. Thanks very much. So one final question before we leave the panel and go back to clips. I've asked you about your dinner parties. I've asked you about the importance of the book. I asked Duncan what his greatest ambition for the book was, and he told me Patrick's. But Angelina and Yvonne, what's your greatest hope for the book?
My greatest hope for the book is that it does make it into as many schools as possible. My other great hope is that it inspires people to find out more. I wrote the book in such a way that I didn't want to just write about like a narrative or biographical kind of treatment of the individuals that are featured in this book, the 100 individuals featured in the book. What I wanted to do was really kind of put those individuals in their political, social, cultural, or historical context so that people could understand the world that they were living in, or the world that they are living in, and that the challenges and how they were able to overcome the challenges that they were faced with. It was really to write about them in a way that would say to, rather than giving you every single thing about them, that you would say, my goodness, this person's really interesting. I'd like to learn more about that person. So if that inspires people to do that, to say, I want to learn more, I want to understand British history as a global history, or by reading it, somebody out there says, it's now even more important, more than ever, to make sure that our curriculum reflects the global nature of British history, then I think, in my view, then the book will have done its job.
Thank you. Yvonne, before you answer the same question, what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite our attendees to submit their questions in the chat for the panel. So if you have a question for the panel, this is the time to submit it in the chat while we just listen to Yvonne's answer to the same question. Your greatest ambition for the book, Yvonne?
I would like it to go into all secondary schools that the target is set and they can go in there. But I'd like to see it in libraries and in family homes, and certainly the primary school as well. And for readers from all backgrounds, because we are a multicultural, multi-diverse country, will have a better appreciation of the contributions Blacks have made and continue to make, and hopefully some credibility and eliminate some of the negativity and removing the stigma of Black people, and bring that cohesion together within society and within the classrooms. That would be the greatest achievement for me, and that it continues to have another book with more as well. So yeah.
And one question that's been asked, Angie, it's been asked a few times by a few different people, which was how long did it take to do the research for the book?
Oh, I started in the summer of 2019, and I finished the last profile in the middle of June of this year. So that's how long it took.
Took a long time. Yeah. While I'm in the chat looking, there's a message from Marcia Riggs asking if she can have a signed copy.
It would be my absolute pleasure to give you a signed copy. Oh, I've gone. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, yes.
Okay, I'm still here. My camera's gone a bit cattywampus. But yes, that would be my pleasure. I'd be absolutely thrilled to sign a copy for Marcia Rigg.
Okay. There's obviously a lot of people want to have the book signed, and because of COVID and social distancing, it's going to be very difficult. So one of the things that we're going to have on the website, on the 100greatblackbritons.co.uk website, is you can, I know it's not quite the same, but you can actually download a message and signatures from both of us, so you can add in the book, and then hopefully one day we can have a proper decent sort of book signing of some sort. But you know.
Okay, this is a question for all three of you. It's the final question we'll take before going to the next clip. But I thought it was such a great question. Who was number 101 who just missed out from getting in the book?
Oh my goodness. There were a couple. There were quite a few actually. Oh God, because I remember we had to make a very, we had to be a little bit ruthless, and we had to cut a few people just to keep it as 100. But do you remember, Patrick, who that was?
Yeah, so there were a couple of people that we were considering. One of the challenges has been, and this is some of the criticism that's been laid about the book, is actually certain people were featured in the original campaign, but not all of them were featured in the book. So, but we want to make the book relevant and take into account 17 years have moved on. So it's always a balancing act when you're keeping Shirley Bassey in the book.
That's it, Shirley Bassey.
Because she was an original campaign, and I know already I've got feedback from people from Wales, and they've been, you know, there are some Welsh people in the book, not enough. But one of the key things they're going to do, they're going to work on their own book. So I think one of the impacts is if we can inspire other people. This is not the definitive book, basically, guys. This is an interpretation from me and Angelina, with support of Yvonne and the other judges and the nomination process. And we don't have the license or the monopoly, even, to be quite honest. So if people feel they want to do the interpretations, that is fine. That's what happened when we did it 17 years ago. People did their own lists and stuff like that. So there was a number of people. There was Shirley Bassey, there was Septimus Severus, Black Roman Emperor. So we weren't quite sure, should it be in the book or should we just simply leave it as he was in the original campaign? You know, there was a whole range of people, to be quite honest. You know, but we had to make a judgment call, and you know, at the end of the day, we have to stand by the judgment call as well.
Thank you very much. We'll be coming back to you after this clip. That's this clip. Maybe if we all said it together.
After this clip.
This clip.
Boom.
How does it feel for your achievements to be recognised in this way?
You're being recognised by your peers. You're being recognised by your fellow Black people. It's a huge honour. It's a huge thing, really, because sometimes the work is hard. Sometimes the struggle is hard, you know. You can feel like you've achieved something, and then you can feel like you've stepped 15 steps back. Sometimes you get a group of people who aren't listening to you, and you're kind of, it's like you're pushing against a brick wall. And then you have a little breakthrough, and that feels good. But then it's like the wall goes up again. So in times when you feel like you're pushing against a brick wall, recognition can ease that pain a bit. I write all the speeches with lots of people. Marcus Ryder helps me, and then everybody reads them and comments on them. You know, there's lots of town hall meetings, there's lots of Zoom calls where we talk about what the issues are and what we need to say about them. It's not just me. So really, you're not just including me in your book, you're including everybody that's part of this movement, because it is a movement.
Well, it was a great surprise. It was a lovely surprise. I'd like to thank whoever nominated me and whoever voted me in. It's an honour. I think those are the two words, surprise and an honour.
You know, it's beautiful, right? I'm fortunate enough to have worked in other countries and been appreciated in other countries. But it's like when you come home and your family say, you have done well. There's nothing better, right? Than them saying, you have done well. And this book, and to be recognized in this way is my family saying, you have done well. And that warms the heart in a particular fashion that nothing else can really do.
I was so surprised. Someone mentioned to me that I've come up in this. It's a great honor. I see myself as part of a movement that's unspecified, but it's been there for a long time. It's a movement of achieving some sense of challenge to a system which is sometimes, it's abusive, but it's sometimes very abusive. And so one is in that situation of challenging the abuses that are inflicted, not on oneself. Sometimes one thinks of that a little bit, but it's more thinking of it in terms of the world we are in, the clients one sees, the mothers. I've seen so many mothers who are struggling to hold on to the essence of being a mother and caring for their child or children, and losing the battle. And I've known of a number of them having lost the battle. So, you know, it's a painful experience to know that the people who are really suffering have very little support. So to be one of the people selected to be honored, it's really representing the interests of a group of people that have no easy way of being recognized and being acknowledged. So I feel good about that bit of it, the latter bit.
I'm really humbled, actually, because it's actually been a really traumatic journey. There's been a journey behind it that most people don't know. They see Marcia Brigg on camera or hear me speak, or I speak in universities, I do public speaking, I speak in parliament, and I do a lot of things in the background. But personally, it has been difficult, you know, a Black woman. You've had to keep strong, because I've met so many other Black women just like myself before my brother died and after my brother died on the issues of Jesse police custody for our young Black men. And we are traumatized, but we find strength within within each other. And it is not just black deaths either. It's really affected in the poor working class people across this country. It's really important to record that history for everybody to learn from.
It's wonderful to know that I am providing a lasting legacy for children and young people, because I always say childhood lasts a lifetime. So the knowledge we pass on to children has to start as early as possible. We have to pave the way for them so that they can become future leaders. They need to see others achieving that look like them, for them to aspire to give them hope for the future, to think, well, if she can, why can't I? Yes, I can. Like Barack Obama said, yes, I can. Yes, we can.
There are different ways that my work has been acknowledged and amplified. There's something sweet about when it's black people, when black people amongst ourselves, diverse black people, say, you know, we see you, we hear you. So it feels really precious and acknowledging, and I'm so grateful to every black human being that made my work possible, that every individual that contributed to this space, to Angela and Patrick for just always being like on it, you know. It feels like, I have a poem called Black Intersectional Alchemy, and it feels to me like that. It feels like the knowing and the hearing of us as black folk, and for me to be a part of that, and for me to be in a book with people that I love and respect, people like Stormzy, people like, you know, people like Mary Seacole, just feels magical.
When I do something, I don't do it because I want to be recognized. So I'm often surprised, a little bit shocked that it's taken as far as to be encapsulated in a book. We must not nevertheless underestimate the privilege for the roles and responsibilities that we carry, and to ensure that it is being done for good. It is being used for the good. You know, I am a firm believer that the gifts and abilities that we have is not for us. It's not just about us. It is given by God. And so the God who generously gave himself to us has given us things and gifts and abilities, and we cannot just simply sit in our laurels. We have got to use those gifts. We cannot, like Jeremiah says, oh, I'm only a child, I can't do this. Oh no, get out there and get it done. So from that perspective, I know that it is a privilege and an honor.
You can get honors from all over the place, but when you're getting it from your own community, it's very important. And I hope that my children and grandchildren will see it as such and tell their pals and show off about it.
Thank you very much. And Patrick, we contacted some of the 100 people in the book, and we were amazed by how many of them were kind of honoured to be contacted, were willing to be interviewed, were willing to reorganise their lives in order to be interviewed, because they felt it was a kind of real honour to be in the book and to take part in your movement. Angelina, one of the questions in the chat is about the fact that there are so few sports people in the book. Was that an active decision that you made?
Okay, so I want to stress that I didn't make a decision about the individuals in the book. So you'll notice that there are two historical prize fighters in terms of sport. When we did the first list, there were a significant amount of sports people, particularly footballers. And we did feature people like Arthur Wharton, Walter Tull, Cyril Regis and other pioneering, John Barnes and other pioneering footballers. This book feels, in terms of the people that were selected for this one, is another dimension of the Black British experience. We do tend, in my view, people do recognize and tend to, because Black footballers are featured quite heavily a lot, because of that might have been one particular field that a lot of Black athletes were featured in. But I think that with this book, we're adding another dimension. So I think it's really important to bear in mind that that we are not a monolith, okay, that we are a multiplicity of experiences, and that we shouldn't just, I don't want to be prescriptive, but to realize that there are all different areas that we should be thinking about and celebrating. I truly celebrate the pioneers of the footballing era. They were featured in the earlier manifestation of the campaign. In this manifestation of the campaign, it's a range of different people. There is a scope to feature so many people, and I hope that people bear that in mind.
Thanks very much. Somebody's just put in the chat, I've not been able to fact check. I've not been able to fact check it, but that the book has gone into Amazon's 100 bestsellers list, and so that's kind of something in itself. So congratulations on that. Perhaps a couple of people could fact check it while we're talking, just to kind of establish it as a fact.
That'd be interesting. By the way, if anyone's got the book, please do reviews on Amazon. That helps. So if you've got the book, just a message. Just put a message in the review section at Amazon. That would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And also, can I acknowledge? I want to acknowledge. Everyone's seen the graphic images of the 100 people featured in the book. That's linked to schools competition. It's linked to the post. We've done some posters, which are going to go to all schools as part of Yvonne's campaign. I want to acknowledge Dr. Pen Mandoka. I've known Pen for a number of years. She, especially around the Windrush scandal campaigns, as part of my social media campaign, she did graphic images highlighting the plight of the Windrush generation and the key demands for justice. So she's done this fantastic image of the 100. We've actually got a competition on the 100 Great Black Britons website to try and name some of the people, the silhouettes, to name who they are. So go into the website if you want to win a book also. We're giving away too many books, aren't we, Angie? We're making a bit of money. I want a holiday. I want to be on the beach and just chill out.
Patrick, because if we've named Amazon, which perhaps we shouldn't have done, we should name New Beacon Books, which is another bookshop which is owned and run by Black people.
I want to acknowledge Love Books, Samantha. Hi, Samantha. She, she's actually got a couple of the signs, well, my signature at least anyway. So she's got a couple of those. I don't know if she's sold them out already. But obviously, the mainstream is important. Amazon, Woodstones, Foils, independent bookshops, Pages in Hackney, where I live. There's lots of independent bookshops everywhere, and Black book publishers. And independence as well. Just want to acknowledge everyone for your support, and as well.
And personally, as well as having a kind of physical copy of the book, yeah. Somebody in the chat was asking if you can get it on different formats. I've also got it on my mobile phone on Audible, and so I'm able to kind of listen to the book as I'm driving along. So I've got it on Audible as well as having a hard copy, and so that's at least two formats. I don't know if is it in Kindle as well?
It is in Kindle.
Kindle as well, and so yes, you can get in all sorts of formats. But listen, we've got 3 minutes before we end.
I think Tracy might have asked for a little extra time. I don't know if that's what people are okay with. She a few more minutes.
Okay, what we could perhaps do is that we could end the panel on time at 8:30. I think that what Tracy wants to do is to play the final clip. And so what we could do is we could end and then play the final clip. And then things will kind of come to a natural end at the end of the final clip. Does that feel okay?
Yeah.
And so that gives you each kind of 1 minute to say the one thing that you wanted to say tonight that I've not asked you about.
I would just like to thank everybody. Thank you to Ubele for hosting this wonderful evening, our book launch tonight. Really appreciate everything that you've done. Many thanks to Tracy. She's an absolute star. The clips were just amazing of all the different people that you'd interviewed. Thank you to everybody who's coming in tonight to help us support this launch. Thank you to everybody who's bought the book, who supports the book, who's celebrating the book. And thanks for all the wonderful, wonderful, positive, lovely messages that people have been sending through. We are really, really grateful. We just wanted to do just this one little thing. We know it's just a small thing. It's not going to necessarily change the world, but we just wanted to do just one little thing. And I personally am incredibly proud of what this book has done and to have been part of it. So thank you to every single person. Thank you very much indeed.
Patrick?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that's been involved. Obviously, Robinson, the team at Robinson have been fantastic. Duncan, Rebecca, Emily, everyone there. I want to acknowledge all the people people featured in the book that gave their time to be on the videos, and also on Waterstone's social media platform. There's Georgia Poet, Diane Abbott, Vernon Visto, and Lady Phil. They've also done clips as well, so I want to acknowledge them as well. I want to acknowledge Focus Games, who designed the website, and also the submissions that's been held around the school competition. They're looking after that, and they're working with Yvonne around doing the actual physical book distribution of all the books going to school. That's as part of the campaign. I want to particularly thank all the judges that were involved. We did that Black Culture Archive in January of this year, and I just want to thank all the panel judges. Michelle, I think Michelle's online. Hi, Michelle. Michelle Moore, Dwayne Neal from Chair of Reach Society. I want to acknowledge Kenneth Fapp, who was the director at Africa Centre. Charmaine Lovegrove. I want to acknowledge Nadine White from Huffington Post. He was on the shortlisting panel as well. I want to also acknowledge, obviously, Yvonne and being part of with us as well. What's going to think? Vanda Kapowski, Vanda from Directors Equality Trust. I want to thank Sashi, my social media person. So any of you that follow us on 100 Great Black Britons on Twitter or on Instagram, she is the one that's been doing the daily messages day in, day out. I want to acknowledge her as well. We're making some film clips of the process, and that's been done by Siddiqui Harris, filmmaker, Penn, and also Sharon Wallace, photographer, did some fantastic images for us around the time. And I also want to thank everyone and the audience. I just want to thank you for your support and everyone, the messages that we've received, and even the people who are attacking the naysayers. Thanks very much as well.
Yvonne, 30 seconds.
I just want to say thank you to Angelina and to Patrick for bringing this book to us. Thank you to everyone who has donated, inspired by the book, sending some lovely messages. Use that with the family, use that in school, and pass the message on. And as much support in the campaign, I'd be very grateful. And thank you for tonight, for hosting what is a wonderful event. And as Patrick said, hopefully I'll be able to sign the books at the next event.
Sorry, I missed that something. So to interrupt, Black Culture Archives, they hosted the shortlisting. I want to thank Arike, the managing director, and also the chair, Dawn Hill, as well, for their support. So sorry about that. There's many other people, so yeah.
Before we go, I think I'd just like to acknowledge the work that Tracy and Fatima have been doing in the background, and getting those interviews, making those interviews, cutting those interviews down, and kind of making today's program happen. But most of all, I think the thing that struck me from the interviews was the thought that you come back to your family and your family say that you have done well, and that struck me as something that came very clearly from almost all of the people who we spoke to, who were in the book, that each and every one of them said the most important thing about being in that book was that it was a recognition from your family, and that your family was saying that you had done well. And I'd like to end tonight actually by thanking Patrick, by thanking Yvonne, by thanking Angelina, by thanking the team around them. And as a member of your family, as your brother, as your father, as your grandfather, as your uncle, I'd like to say I'm proud to have you in my family, and that you have done exceptionally well. And I wish everybody listening could applaud you right now. I'm sure that they are, but I'd like to go to the clips applauding the three of you, because as members of my family, I'm proud to have you because you have done so very, very, very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Have to adopt you, Michael, as a family member, and Andrew's family, Yvonne's family, and also I want to acknowledge my family as well. And I just want to say finally, I lost my brother-in-law to COVID-19 while we're working on the book, and I've done my own personal dedication. Alexander, my sister Janet, and my sister Julie, and my nephew Tendai, and his wife Irene are in Cornwall, saying goodbye to him. I'm thinking of them right now.
Thank you for that, Patrick. Should the four of us together say to Tracy, now it's time to show the final clip. We won't come back after the final clip. The program will come to an end. I'd like to thank everybody who has been on tonight's Zoom. I'd like to encourage you to go to www.ubele.org, sign up for our newsletter, learn about our other events, and join the clan. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
thank you for your support.
Good
Live
night.
long and prosper.
Professional moment.
My greatest professional moment was becoming the very first sickle cell nurse specialist in the United Kingdom, way back in 1979.
3 points of comic relief has been a huge thing. 3 points of the Nelson Mandela movement, we did Mandela Day, and on the second one, he was there. To meet him in person was a heart-stopping moment for me. You have to think about the next thing. I'm writing, I'm acting, I'm making documentaries. I've got a production company, and I'm trying to do things that hopefully will give those chef moments that you had to a new generation. So make new programs that mean something. We did a thing recently about unseen Black classical musicians that you've never heard of.
It was being the artistic director of the World Festival of Arts and Culture in Senegal in 2010. And I was asked with 6 months' notice to come in and get a festival off the ground. And it was at ground zero. And I flew in to Dakar, and we drove around the city, and we would choose places and go, you see that building there? Let's convert that building into an art gallery. Let's convert that piece there into a literary salon. Let's produce that into a concert hall. And we literally just took over Dakar and did that. And then I had to write and direct the opening ceremony for 52 countries. And I tell you, before that, the largest show I directed was 5 actors on the stage of the tricycle. And here I was, 500, probably 800 when we got to the end, representing Africa and Senegal.
What is mental illness? Why is it that they, 1 or 2 of them, I remember, believed that they could establish a diagnosis without being able to communicate meaningfully with us? And I challenged one of my teachers and said, but it is not so. It's not what you have picked up, because I've picked up something that is rather different from what you have picked up. And I actually see it differently. As a young student, I was really out of place, representing our people, and I think representing common sense in psychiatry, because common sense should say that if an Asian population and Bengalis in the East End of London can't be understood, then you can't have a person treating them who has no access to what they're saying and has no understanding of what the meaning of what might be the issue.
That's when I reflect back and see the things that I have done and been able to accomplish. Cameras in police vehicles, for instance, was a great accomplishment for this country, because believe it or not, when my brother died in 2008, police vehicles did not have audio or CCTV, where a lot of brutality and deaths happened behind closed doors and inside a police vehicle. So that was a good achievement in terms of being able to see exactly what happened at the back of the van from the perspective of the person that has been arrested, and also from the police's perspective. Open transparency is what we need, and deterrence of any wrongdoing. And also the issue of body-worn cameras as well. There wasn't body-worn cameras in 2008. So now we can actually physically and visually see the truth as to what is happening.
Well, I have two achievements that stand out for me. Firstly, writing my book, Coming to England, Through the Eyes of the Child, which I wrote 25 years ago. It's up there as one of my major achievements, as it's well used in schools and universities to teach modern history. I made it into a film for the BBC and it won a Royal Television Society Award, which was brilliant. And the picture book version of Coming to England, introducing young children to Black history, is now a #1 bestseller. Who would have thought? Secondly, my political achievement is being in the House of Lords and successfully getting government to accept many of my amendments to make a difference to people's lives, especially children. For instance, I got the law changed so that public service broadcasters now have to make children's programs. They weren't making any programs a few years ago and didn't have to do so. I got that law changed. I also got the child performance regulations law changed so that children can now perform live in front of the camera after 7 p.m. on programs like Britain's Got Talent. That wasn't allowed a couple of years ago. I am so proud of making these political changes, and I'll continue to make a difference to other people's lives, especially children's, as long as I have breath in me, because childhood lasts a lifetime and we must put children first.
There was a moment a few years ago when two of the young women that I'd been working with in Cannes spoke at the front of the Million Woman Rights March. And one of those young women, my daughter, who for years, when she was a child, would go, I'm not being a feminist because you have to work too hard. And so her and another young woman, Leah, stood at the front of the march and spoke. There was something about watching, like for me, knowing that intergenerational labour and connection matters, and seeing that embodied in these two young women. So, yeah, in a weird kind of way, for me, that's one of my greatest moments, because I felt proud of who they were and of how, and I really, it was like the embodiment of or collective labour and resistance and all of those things. So in a weird way, my proudest and the best moments for me aren't just whether there's a camera or the thing is focused on me. I'm actually pretty shy. So it's not just that, it's actually seeing what comes of that work. And how and observing the magic of what we do as people and the fruit of that, the manifestations of that. And so I think for me that feels like a really precious moment, because they were so united and fierce and soft and just speaking it and it was joyous and defiant. And so for me, that's the kind of thing that makes me get up in the morning, not just what happens over here in my life and my experience, but also seeing how that connects to other Black folk, you know, and seeing how that connects to diverse global majority people. So I'd say that was one of my sweetest and favorite moments.
I visited a parishioner to bring her the sacrament, and I arrived only to find that she was having one of her worst days. And I put away my communion box, found not even your the normal kitchen gloves, but one of those sort of thin ones, that disposable ones. And it was the last pair in the box. And cleaning from the living room, the passage, the bathroom, cleaning her down, and then cleaning up the rest of it. I think that is probably my greatest professional moment.
So if you type in one word on your phone, just abrasion, you will get my name. The Guinness Company asked me to go to Nigeria because they were struggling. They couldn't use European grain anymore. And they asked whether I could go and have a look to see whether they could use African grain to make Guinness. And that's exactly what we managed to do. So now in Africa today, because of that work, a whole load of small farmers, African farmers, are growing their grain for big international companies instead of using European grain. It is now an international grain. It is one of the few grains in the world that has no gluten and can grow without much water. It is now a super grain. So there you are. Those are things I've done sitting here in this little room.